I grew up going to what I think a lot of times is described maybe as like a creaster family. My parents described themselves as non-denominational, so we would always make sure we would get to church on Easter and Christmas. If guilt drove us to go more often, that would usually happen about every other year, where we would be more consistent, but I was never at every single Sunday family. I did not grow up with that. I needed purpose in my life. I needed something solid, and I found that in God. I did struggle with being agnostic for a while in middle school, but I think really it was almost like a rebellion, like someone does with their parents, where I never fully left. It was more just an anger and confusion. I remember my first Easter back, and I remember going into it feeling a bit cynical. I had been in a middle school youth group, and I was always described as the one that had a lot of questions, just like when I was in elementary school. So I remember going in a little cynically, even though I had been the one that had convinced my family to go. But there was just something that happened there that day. I think for the first time I experienced Jesus personified, if that makes sense. There was a video they showed, the specific teaching that day. So from then on out, I decided to dedicate my life to Christ. A few years later, COVID happened, and that was right around when I wanted to be baptized. But my church was shut down, and so I could not. So instead what I did is I figured, well, I should read the contract before I sign it. So I finished reading the Bible throughout COVID. That was the first time I'd read all the way through. During that time, when I was reading my Bible, I really developed more questions than answers, and I wanted to start exploring different denominations. If you had told me at 16 years old that I was going to be Catholic, I probably would have laughed at you. But here we are 3 years later. I'm 19 years old, and I'm going to be baptized and confirmed in just a few weeks. As a student at Hillsdale College, where I'm at, this firm belief in following the permanent things. It was the permanent things in church history that really made me realize I had to be Catholic. Not my choice, but God's. I'm very excited about what is to come. I'm taking it one day at a time, and I think one of the best things I have heard is that I don't have to be perfect. And I think that is one of the things I admired about Catholicism in the first place, is it recognizes that we are human, but it calls us to be saints.